Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today, the lotus feet of their lordships. So today we are discussing the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being revealed. It's coming? The heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being revealed in these initial chapters of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'll be using this as a whiteboard to write or draw certain things and explain. Sorry for the technical delay in setting things. It is visible? Okay, the height is a little lower. Can you change that? Okay, what if I change this color? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's okay, we settle it now. Thank you for your efforts. So I'll talk about this as a class. I'll take this class in three broad parts. We'll be talking about first, here Mahaprabhu's mood. What is being revealed over here. Then I will talk about the Chaitanya Charitamrita structure. Then I will talk about the relevance, especially as presented by Srila Prabhupada. Now, the Chaitanya Charitamrita in this particular section is talking about the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being expressed through his speech. Here, what is Mahaprabhu saying? That he is the seed of the tree of love of God. But he also said, I want to be the tree. What does it mean? That Mahaprabhu's compassion is so great that he doesn't just want to make the doors to that compassion open. He wants that compassion to reach everyone. So there might be some terrible disease. Say we had a pandemic. And say somebody works very hard and discovers the cure for the disease that is causing the pandemic. That's a big thing. But that person may say, okay, I'm a researcher, I'm not a publicizer, I'm not a campaigner, I'm not a polemicist. Sometimes you have to publicize that this particular medicine works. The government may not approve of that medicine, that you have to fight and lobby and do all those. I don't want to get into all that. I'll just make the medicine. Those who want, they take it, they use it. But Mahaprabhu's mood is saying that I don't want just to have the message of love of God available in one corner of the world. I want it to go everywhere. So it is, if we consider the mood of Mahaprabhu, it is providing a solution. That's one thing. Providing means, okay, this is available. But then it is promoting the solution. So we see this later when Mahaprabhu, there's only one incident as far as I have seen, very explicit in the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Mahaprabhu actually makes a call to his devotees. There are many places where he gives instructions, there are many places where he expresses his heart. But when Mahaprabhu is in Varanasi, and Prabhupada called Varanasi the Vrindavan of the Mayavadis. What he meant by that was the headquarters for them. And he said, Mahaprabhu said over there, I have come with so many fruits of love of God. And I want to distribute them to everyone. But, he said, there are so many fruits and I have only two hands. To how many people can I distribute? And the point is, in Varanasi, he was especially disappointed. Of course, the Lord is transcendental and you can say the Lord does not experience emotions like disappointment. But that's a very superficial understanding. It is that the Lord is filled with love. And love as the basis of a real relationship means that their entire gamut of emotions are there. So the Lord, out of his loving compassion, went on a tour of North India and a tour of South India. First South India, then North India. to try to share Krishna Bhakti vigorously with everyone. And when, especially North India, nobody seemed to be interested. Mahaprabhu actually went to Varanasi twice. There are very few places in his tours where he explicitly went twice and tried to preach twice. Yeah, Mahaprabhu went on a South India tour and he retraced his steps to some extent, so he visited many of the places. But it was more like a preaching expedition twice. And the first preaching expedition, even for Mahaprabhu, didn't seem to be successful. Mahaprabhu just left from there and went to Vrindavan. Second time when he came, that's the time when he met Prakashanand Saraswati. And when he met Prakashanand Saraswati and they had an interaction, they had a discussion. When Mahaprabhu spoke, that is the time Prakashanand Saraswati understood what is real Prakash, what is real Ananda, and what is real Saraswati. So he understood what is that ultimate light, that Prakash. That is actually the effulgence of Krishna. What is Ananda? Brahmananda is there, but Bhakti-ananda, Premananda, that is far, far bigger. And what is the real blessing of Saraswati, the goddess of learning? It is not just to see beyond the illusions of this world, to go toward the undifferentiated ocean of oneness, that is Brahman. It is to go beyond Brahman to the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, Mahaprabhu's second preaching mission was phenomenally successful in Varanasi. But the first one was unfortunately not. And at that time, when Mahaprabhu is leaving from there, he is saying that I want to share these fruits, but there are so few people who are here to distribute it. And even when we distribute it, people are not just ready to take it. People have to be convinced. See, the problem with Maya, among many others, is, let's see, Maya, it has two Shaktis. One is called as the Prakshepatmika. Prakshepatmika is the throwing tendency, and the Avaranatmika. Avaranatmika is the covering tendency. So if you consider a movie, say nowadays people can watch movie in their homes also, and if you go to a theatre, it's much more expensive. But why do people pay so much to go to a movie theatre to watch a movie? Because the illusion seems more real in the theatre. So, what happens is that when we go into movie theatre, first the lights go off. So, we are disconnected from everything around us. And then in front of us, the lights go on. So the lights go off, that is the Avaranatmika Shakti. We can't see anything else. And then the lights go on. Those lights are so seductive that it may not be directly a sexually seductive movie, but just the fact those lights are glittering and so many images are coming and so many things are happening, just get captivated. That's the Prakshepatmika Shakti. So the problem with most people who are in illusion is that they don't consider being an illusion a problem. Most people who are sick, they realize they are sick and they want to come out of the sickness. But suppose there is a sickness which doesn't make us feel sick while it is destroying us from inside. That's the nature of cancer many times. Till it gets to stage 3 or stage 4, especially some cancers, we may not even realize they are there in our body. And we think, I'm perfectly fine. So Maya is like that. So most people, when they are in illusion, they don't feel the need to come out of illusion. Because what's wrong with illusion? It's enjoyable. So there's one thinker who said that the problem with the world is that the wise are full of doubts and the foolish are full of confidence. So when we are practicing bhakti, we have doubts. Will Krishna really care for me? Will Krishna protect me? If I try to serve Krishna, will Krishna be there for me? So we have our doubts. The wise are full of doubts. But the foolish are full of confidence. The materialistic people, if I just win this award, I will be happy. If I can just get this person as my partner in my relationship, my life will be perfect. If I can just get this job, if I can just get into this college, my life will be happy. Kamopabhoga parama etavad iti nishchitaha. Krishna says they're ascertained that this is the purpose of life. So this refers to whatever it might be that they have determined. But so the point I'm making over here is Mahaprabhu feels that there are so many fruits of love of God to give, and so few people to give it in a way that is effective, that people will accept it. And that's the time he makes an appeal. He says, please assist me. Please assist me in distributing these fruits of love of God. And Srila Prabhupada in lecture says that actually the whole Krishna consciousness movement is actually assisting Mahaprabhu in taking those fruits of love of God and distributing it to everyone else. So this is Mahaprabhu's mood of compassion. So Mahaprabhu is relishing love of God. He's savoring love of God, but he's also sharing love of God. Internally he's relishing it, and externally he's distributing it. So as we know, Mahaprabhu is a combination of Krishna and Radha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. So when he's in his Radha mood, he is savoring Krishna Prema. So especially towards the Antilila, Mahaprabhu enters much more into his Radha mood. That's why he doesn't travel so much. He focuses more and more on simply relishing. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't care for the world. He is caring for the world by having these demonstrations of divine love in the material world, so that people can know that there are such states of loving ecstasy also. But when he's in the mood of Krishna, he's sharing Krishna Prema. This is the time when he is in the mood of the Yuga Avatar. He is in the mood of the person who is delivering the world. So his South India tour, his North India tour, they are in the mood of Krishna. And the Gaudiya Acharyas say that especially Mahaprabhu's meeting with Ramanand Rai, who is his intimate Sakhi in the spiritual world, Vishakha Sakhi, that meeting triggers the Radha Bhav within him. And slowly that Radha Bhav starts becoming more and more. And when he returns to Puri, and Ramanand Rai is also there, then that Radha Bhav predominates. So there is sharing Krishna Prem and there is savoring Krishna Prem. So Mahaprabhu wants to do both. So as the root of the tree of love of God, he is actually telling the world that there is something like this also existing. But as the tree itself, he says, okay, the tree might be there as a seed, but nobody will notice the seed also. But when it comes as a giant tree, that's when the tree gets noticed. So like that, so what is savoring Krishna Prem? That is like being the root of the tree. Because the tree is there, it's in potential. But sharing Krishna Prem is the breadth of the tree. The tree manifests and the breadth is there. And Mahaprabhu is saying, I want to be both. I want to do both. I want to relish this Krishna Prem and I also want to distribute this Krishna Prem. So this is the first point I mentioned, that about Mahaprabhu's mood as is manifested in this particular verse. Now we'll see how this is manifested in the structure of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. After Mahaprabhu departed from the world, he was such a phenomenal person that according to historical records, 27 biographies were written about him. So many people wanted to write down their memories, their experiences. Now, one of the reasons why a biography is written is that we love the person so much that we can't tolerate the idea that the person's memory will be no more. The person may be no more, but at least no more in the material sense, they're not here in this world. But we can't tolerate that the person's memory will be no more. So, okay, can we do something? So little bit this side, yeah. So then, many biographies were written. 9 of them are extant. Extant means still present. Now, Murari Gupta's Karchas were the first thing that was written. And then those became the source material combined with what they had heard from different places, by different people, from different people. And Chaitanya Bhagavat was a prominent biography. Chaitanya Mangal was another prominent biography. Now, Chaitanya Charitamrita is the last biography that is written. And this biography became the authoritative biography. Generally, after any Acharya departs, there can very naturally be confusion. Prabhupada himself writes, an Acharya brings order amid chaos. But when the Acharya departs, then the order often departs with him and chaos re-emerges again. That's just the nature. However, the Acharya also gives teachings and a legacy by which from that chaos, order again can emerge. So, now from the perspective of historical study, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is an extraordinary Sampradaya. I'm not saying this because we belong to it and it's a self-congratulatory statement. But it's that Mahaprabhu's departure from the material perspective was very sudden. Advaita Acharya sent him a message and then he just, okay, that's enough. He departed. So normally, see, whenever there is succession, there has to be succession planning. In our movement also, which Srila Prabhupada's disciples now, in their sunset years, there's some succession planning going on. Now, succession involves broadly 3 things. There are persons who are appointed as successors. Then there are papers. Papers means the will is written. And there are processes. Processes could mean an organization structure set up. This is how things will function. So Prabhupada appointed, for example, 11 gurus at that time. Prabhupada appointed certain gurus, and whatever be the number, and Prabhupada set up the GBC as the process by which succession could happen. Now these 3 processes could broadly mean some organizational structure. I'm not using the word organization specifically because it may not always be an organization, but some kind of process has to be there. How are things going to go on after me? Now in the case of Mahaprabhu, he didn't do any of these 3 things. He did not appoint any particular person as successor. He didn't write his will. And Mahaprabhu was also not a person who wrote much. He was a profound teacher, and his successors would write, his disciples and his students would write books. Mahaprabhu wrote Shikshashtakam, which was an expression of devotional ecstasy. But that was not a guideline for how to function in the world, how to live in the world, or how his followers should live in the world. And he certainly did not start any organization. So, from that perspective, that the Gaudiya Vaishnava organization has survived, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition has survived itself is a historical miracle. And that it has thrived is a far greater miracle. Now we could say, of course, Mahaprabhu had his prominent followers who did become successors. Well, yes, that is true. But Mahaprabhu did not formally appoint or anoint anyone. So broadly speaking, after Mahaprabhu departed, there were 3 pockets of influence. As you can see, my drawing is very good. So it's a perfect replicas of those areas. So there's Bengal, there is Orissa, and there is Vrindavan. So in Vrindavan, the Goswamis were there, whom he had sent specifically for the mission of restoring and rejuvenating Vrindavan. And Bengal was his birthplace, his appearance place itself. And there, although he had left, the memory was very strong and he had many followers from his childhood. And this had been his sannyas kshetra, the last years when he had knew. That Utkal Pavana, he stayed in Utkal. Utkal is Orissa, the Odisha area. So these were the 3 broad areas where he had focused. And now, In all these three areas, Mahaprabhu's followers tried to continue on in their own ways. However, there was a significant difference. Now, between at least, see, these two areas were relatively similar. Shachimata also told Mahaprabhu, please don't go to Vrindavan, please stay in Puri. Because Jagannath Puri and Mayapur are just like two rooms in the same house. Now people keep going up and down. I know about your whereabouts and your well-being. So those two devotees were reasonably well connected. Now, Mahaprabhu was born in Bengal, and the books that were written by the devotees over here were primarily in Bengali, the literature that came out. And they were about the Leela. They were about Gaura Leela. That they wrote books about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as they had heard them, as they had witnessed them, and as they became a part of the you could say folklore, not in a negative sense, but in the collective memory of the followers over there. Now, Vrindavan was not a part of Bengal. Nobody spoke Bengali over there. When the Goswamis went there, they wrote books primarily in Sanskrit. Because that was the language of the intellectual elite of those times. The Sandarbhas are in Sanskrit. In Gopal Champu, that is also in Sanskrit. And while Mahaprabhu had gone there, he had been there for 2 months and it had been a sensational time. But still, those 2 months had gone. Like some traveling preachers come and their classes, their presence, their interactions, they inspire people. But if they go away and they never come back, then slowly the memory fades. The influence also fades. So, Mahaprabhu had a significant impact on Vrindavan, but after he had gone, it was not that Vrindavan became a place of Gaura Bhakti. Vrindavan remained a place of Krishna Bhakti. And that's natural. Mahaprabhu didn't want to change that. So the books that were written in Vrindavan were primarily in Sanskrit and they were about Tattva. The Satsandarbhas are about philosophy. And in the Satsandarbhas, if you see, Jiva Goswami doesn't refer much to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He offers his respects and obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the start. But beyond that, he's establishing the teachings of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So, what happened as a result was, there was this big void. If you consider this one mountain here, one mountain here. So there's the Bengali mountain and there's the Vraja mountain. So what is happening over here in Bengal? There are two things over here. There's what is the chasm between these two? Is the language is Bengali and the subject is Leela. Here the language is Sanskrit and the subject is Tattva. So now these two sets of followers, both were devoted to Mahaprabhu, but both were doing two very different things in some sense. So now the bridge that was built between the two of them is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now how is that a bridge? Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami was born in Mayapur. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami was born in Mayapur, in the Navadvip area, in Bengal basically. So he grew up hearing the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was very much a part of the collective memory of the people at that time. Then Nityananda Prabhu instructed him to go from Bengal to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, he studied extensively under the Goswamis. He heard Mahaprabhu's pastimes from Raghunath Das Goswami, but he studied with Jiva Goswami, studied with Rupa Goswami, and he then wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is a combination of Tattva and Leela. The previous biographies of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whether Chaitanya Bhagwat or Chaitanya Mangal, they're wonderful books. but they are not philosophical expositions. With all due respects to them, they have philosophical assertions. Anybody who doesn't worship Mahaprabhu is like this, like this, like this. They have philosophical assertions, but there's not much philosophical exposition. So philosophical assertion means Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That could be a philosophical claim. It is a philosophical statement. But is there a philosophical exposition substantiating the statement? Countering the challenges that might be made to the statement. So that is what the Chaitanya Charitamrita has done. And see, generally speaking, if we consider a movie, movies are so much in the collective imagination people's world, so we'll look at that way. So if we consider movies or we consider books, I write books quite a bit. So they say in a movie or in a book, editing is very important. Now what is editing meant to do? Among many other things, there's one editor who said, the purpose of editing is to delete the pages that the readers will skip. So, delete the pages that the readers will skip. That means anything that is redundant, anything that is uninteresting, anything that is repeated, that the author might be in a creative ecstasy, creative flow, and the author may just keep writing. But hey, this has already been said. This is not required. This doesn't need so much elaboration. So then the editor edits them out. So the author might write a 600-page book and the editor might reduce it to 300 pages. So the 300 pages that have been edited, they're not just lost. They are there. They are there as an invisible weight. The key points are there, but the the fluff has been removed. So in movie editing also, the editor sees from the perspective, okay, what is really interesting? What is going to catch people's attention? And that we keep. Now, hundreds of movies, thousands of movies are made. Many of them, some of them become blockbusters. Many of them don't. Most of them don't, for that matter. Some of them become flops. Last year there's a new word that has come out in the Oxford edition. They call it flopbuster. Not just a flop, like you spend 100 million making a movie and the movie doesn't even make 0.1 million. It just disappears completely, sinks. That's called a flopbuster. So now why do movies flop? Because the illusion is not good enough. Because people don't find the illusion interesting enough, captivating enough. So it just becomes boring, the characters are unrelatable, the action is just going on monotonously. So the point I'm making over here is that the things which people consider interesting, normally an editor will expand those. And the things which people are going to consider uninteresting, the editor decreases those. So that is the normal process of editing. Normal editing is what? The interesting things, we expand them. And the uninteresting, we shrink them. But the reason I'm giving this background is the Chaitanya Charitamrita's editing. Chaitanya Charitamrita is, in one sense, editing means Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami took whatever tattva was there, whatever lila was there, he put that together in one assembly, in one structure, in one book. Now, how he has done is, in one sense, that which is interesting for most people, he has shrunk it. And that which is uninteresting, he has expanded it. Now what do we mean by this? See, some of the most dramatic pastimes, say Mahaprabhu confronting Chandkazi. That's such a dramatic, sensational pastime. It's described very briefly over here. And what is expanded is the philosophical discussions. The discussion between, there are 5 great conversations Mahaprabhu had with Prakashananda Saraswati, Sarvam Bhattacharya, with Rupa Goswami, with Sanatana Goswami, and with Ramananda Rai. And those conversations are expanded. If you look at the verses, those chapters have hundreds and hundreds of verses. It just takes so long to read through the chapter also. Now, most devotees, when they read the Srimad Bhagavatam, When it comes to the prayers, you skip the prayers and go to the pastime afterwards. Because in one sense, that doesn't seem so interesting. So, why is it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the uninteresting part apparently has been expanded? And the dramatic pastimes, the drama of the past, if you want to read the pastimes for the sake of drama, Chaitanya Bhagavat is so much more dramatic. Even Mahaprabhu's childhood pastimes. It's see, sometimes there is an event that happens, and there is a description of the event, and then there is a report of the description of the event. The two are very different. So when there is a description of the event, you get transported into that. Chaitanya Charitamrita also is a very beautiful book. I am not in any way minimizing the poetic and the devotional beauty of the book. But Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami had a particular focus. The focus was that he did simply want to repeat the pastimes that were told by the previous teachers. He did previous authors. He did tell them. But his focus was to bring about a marriage between Bengal and Braja. And that is why now, because the Bengali devotees were familiar with the biography genre, that's where the way most books were written. Most of the biographies of Mahaprabhu were written. So they were familiar with the biography genre. So he wrote a book in the genre of a biography. But he wanted to bring the theology, the tattva that the Goswamis had developed. So he basically, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is actually theology plus biography. It's almost, if you look in terms of the extent, see how much time is devoted to something. Based on that, we can see it's much more a work of theology than biography. But it is a work of theology in the format of a biography. In the format of a biography. So he tells the life incidents, but whenever there's a philosophical discussion, he zooms in and then he elaborates on that. So for many people, philosophy doesn't seem very interesting. And philosophy will come, they will zoom out. Let's move to the next one. But Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami specifically focuses on the philosophy. And after he wrote this book, the Chaitanya Charitamrita became such a classic that it brought the various branches of Gaudiya Vaishnavism together. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is one of the key books that ensured that the succession from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued on. Who was Mahaprabhu really? What did he teach? What did he stand for? So now, of course, he stood for love of God. But in terms of theological exposition, that's what Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami did. And this book has such a significant place in our tradition. And that its primary focus is theology. That's what is seen from the very structure of the Adi Leela. It's called Adi Leela. But in one sense, you can see the Leela begins from chapter, quite after the 10th chapter. It begins from, I believe, chapter 13, if not chapter 17. If we go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll see that, the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is chapter 13. So, there are 16 chapters in the Adi Leela, and the Leela is actually beginning from after almost 3/4 of the book is over. It's like, imagine if there is nowadays there are these movies which are multiple series movies. There are 3-part movies. Star Wars had so many sequels and prequels and so many things like that. So there's a 3-part movie. And say each movie is 3 hours. And the hero and the heroine, they enter after 2 hours. What is going on over here? So it's not exactly like that, but the Leela begins much later. Why is that? Because Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has a particular purpose. So for him, Adi Leela, the Adi doesn't just begin with Mahaprabhu's appearance. He starts with the reason for Mahaprabhu's appearance. He starts with the reason for the appearance of Mahaprabhu's associates. He starts with the heart of Mahaprabhu, in which his reason is described in his own words, not just for his appearance, but for his activities thereafter. So if we consider, he gives so much point, first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters, they're all giving the background. And then there are 3 chapters which are simply giving list of names. If you see, after this 9th chapter, 10th, 11th, 12th chapters, the trees and branches of the Chaitanya tree, the expansion of the Lord Nityananda, the expansion of Acharya Gadadhar Pandit. So what is going on over here? See, here Chaitanya Charitamrita is doing the job that Mahaprabhu wanted his followers to do. Like, who are his authorized followers? Who are not his authorized followers? So, because after a teacher departs, there are many people can claim that, oh, this teacher said this to me, I'm doing this because the teacher told me to, this to me. So, many times they would say, Prabhupada said this. Okay, nice, Prabhupada may have said it, but is there a reference for it? Especially if somebody makes some statements which seem to be radically different from general mood of that we know of Prabhupada, then it's important to question it. So what happened was, there are many people who were claiming to follow Mahaprabhu. And unfortunately, Sahajiyaism also came afterwards. So here, Chaitanya Charitamrita is delineating the boundaries. Who are the actual followers and who are not the actual followers. So after doing all this, then Chaitanya Charitamrita starts launching its pastimes. Or launching into the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. So the particular chapter we are in, where Mahaprabhu is describing, I am the seed of the tree of love of God, but I also want to be the tree. Then, after this, in the next chapters, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami will be telling who are the branches of that tree, who are actually following the will of Mahaprabhu, who are fulfilling his mission. And by not mentioning some people, he doesn't condemn them explicitly, but he automatically implies that they are not really, they may be chanting Mahaprabhu's names, but they are not really the authentic followers. So that is the significance of the structure of the Chaitanya Charitamrita and how the particular verse where it falls. The last part I'll talk about is Prabhupada's mood and mission. Now, Prabhupada says in one conversation that many people are telling me to translate the Chaitanya Bhagavat, but I have decided to translate the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, if you see, this was a very significant decision. And also, if we go a little bit backwards, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also grew up in a time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was still there in the collective memory of Bengal. It was several hundred years later. But still, Mahaprabhu's impact was such that, at least in terms of the stories, he was a part of the religious folklore at that times. However, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not attracted by that. He was born in the Shakta family, and then he became a part of the Bhadraloka. He became a part of the intellectual elite of his times. And he read a lot of Western philosophers, and he even he explored Christianity, mostly explored Unitarian Christianity. And he was, in one sense, that way a spiritual eclectic. He was studying and drawing from various traditions. But it was when he read Chaitanya Charitamrita that his heart got transformed. He, before that, had bought in to or at least in terms of the way his Leela was manifested, that he seemed to be affected by the typical rational criticism of Krishna, that he's an immoral person. How can he have relationship with the gopis outside the sacred bonds of marriage? And to the extent Chaitanya Bhaktivinoda Thakur had heard about Mahaprabhu, he knew that Mahaprabhu was a great strict sannyasi, and among the many criticisms that came of Mahaprabhu over the years, nobody criticized Mahaprabhu for immorality, sexual immorality. Mahaprabhu was above any, is unimpeachable in that category. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had this question, that why would a person of such unimpeachable moral character, a renunciate like Mahaprabhu, worship a god like Krishna who seems to be a debauchee? And it was when Bhaktivinoda Thakur read the Chaitanya Charitamrita that he felt his prayers were answered. It was the Chaitanya Charitamrita that brought Bhaktivinoda Thakur to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That's from the external perspective. From the internal perspective, it's a pastime of the Lord. So, but his Gaudiya Vaishnavism manifested through the trigger of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, this book has very great significance, and that's why Prabhupada focused on translating that. And Prabhupada himself had both these moods. The mood of relishing, of savoring Krishna Prem and sharing Krishna Prem. So as devotees, we need to be doing both of these things. Now, devotion is a matter of both connection. We have to have our connection with Krishna. And then there is contribution. Contribution to Krishna. So connection is more internal. That's why Prabhupada translated Bhakti as devotional service. So you could say Bhakti. So the contribution is external. We have many different responsibilities in the world, in our world. Even if we are grahasthas, we have family and social responsibility. Even if we are brahmacharis, we have our services in the world which require us to interact with the world. So there is that connection and there is the contribution. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. There is internal remembrance and yudhya is doing our responsibility, contribution. So now each one of us has to find a healthy balance between the two of them. Prabhupada found his own balance. Prabhupada, it said, a lifetime in preparation he spent. And then, when he came abroad, he had phenomenal success in terms of his contribution. Now, we could say that throughout his life, for 30, 40 years, he was preaching and there was no result. That was a part of Krishna's plan. But it was also that during all this time, Prabhupada was solidifying his connection with Krishna. See, sometimes, if we do some service and we are able to make a lot of contribution, we get a lot of success, we get a lot of praise, we get a lot of applause in the world, material success we get. We distribute a lot of books, we give a class and hundreds of people applaud for the class, we upload a YouTube video and we get thousands of followers. Then, are we doing all that for the sake of Krishna, or are we doing it actually for the sake of the world's applause? That's a serious question to be considered. When Prabhupada continued serving Krishna for 40 years without getting any result, if Prabhupada had been motivated by worldly results, he would have given it up long ago. But through all that time, when he was getting no results, actually he was getting a result. The result was his connection with Krishna was becoming stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So normally if a person tries one thing and doesn't work, and tries second thing and doesn't work, tries third thing and doesn't work, that person starts becoming bitter. Isn't it? So sometimes some people, even devotees, start talking with them. Just after the initial courtesies are over, there's so much complaining. Oh, this person is like this person is like that, this devotee is like this authority is like that. Now they may have genuine grievances. We're not denying that. And sometimes people, even devotees, need to vent out. But the point is, if we are more complaint conscious than Krishna conscious, then that is not a healthy state to be in. So the point is, when Prabhupada was an unknown Swami walking on the streets of America, the people who met him, they saw that Prabhupada was so happy. Even though Prabhupada had no followers, Prabhupada was happy just speaking about Krishna, writing about Krishna. Prabhupada spent so much time and effort writing his books, he had no idea whether he would even have funds to publish his books. But Prabhupada is happy doing that. So, Prabhupada's connection with Krishna was what was forged through the first 40 years of his life. Of course, again, I am talking from the perspective of how things are manifested in this world. From the perspective of a transcendental perspective, you can say Prabhupada always had a connection with Krishna. But that connection was forged, solidified, tested, and demonstrated to be utterly pure by the many years of outreach that was not successful. And then in the last 10 years, Prabhupada got phenomenal, historically unprecedented success. And Prabhupada once told his followers, the GBC, he says, Krishna, he told the GBC that Krishna can give you the whole world in 18 days. Just like Krishna gave Arjuna the victory in the Kurukshetra war in 18 days. He says, but are you ready for it? So, if Krishna gives us the world, will we just take the world and forget Krishna? Thank you, Krishna. Bye-bye. Will we do that, or will we stay with Krishna? So for each one of us, both of these are important. If there is only connection then and no contribution, then what happens is we become irrelevant to the world. We might be in ecstasy chanting Hare Krishna, but nobody will understand what we are doing and nobody will care what we are doing. Isn't it? There's only connection, we become irrelevant to the world. But if there's only contribution, we will get so caught in what results we are achieving in the world that Krishna will become irrelevant to us. That, I'm doing this for Krishna, but Krishna just becomes a tool for decorating our ego. So we can get disconnected with Krishna in the name of connecting with Krishna. So we need a balance of both. Mahaprabhu was savoring and sharing. So basically for all of us, our sadhana is not just the rituals of waking up in the morning and doing this activity. Sadhana is doing those activities which actually connect us with Krishna, which usher our consciousness into the presence of Krishna. What is spiritual growth and how we can ensure that we are going spiritually. That's going to be the talk of my today evening session. But essentially, it is our sadhana that brings us in connection with Krishna. And it is our seva that helps us to do contribution to Krishna. And we need to have a balance of both. And at different times, say when the marathon is coming up, when a Rath Yatra festival is coming up, when a Janmashtami is coming up, that time maybe the seva has to be more. But then there are other times when we need to make sure that we are also connecting with Krishna, that Krishna remains for us the biggest reality, that the world never becomes a bigger reality than Krishna for us. In that way, we can be following the footsteps of Mahaprabhu and footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and both savoring and sharing Krishna consciousness. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. Broadly, we discussed today about the mood of Mahaprabhu and subsequently the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the Gaudiya tradition. So the first part I discussed was about Mahaprabhu's mood itself. So he is the seed and he is the tree. That means that the seed, that is his Radha Bhav, he is savoring Krishna consciousness. And as a tree, it is the Krishna Bhav. He is sharing Krishna consciousness. So both of these are important. And we see for Mahaprabhu, distributing the fruits. Food distribution was such an important task, especially was when he was in Krishna Bhav, that he makes an appeal to all of us, to everyone, please assist me in distributing this. So before we can actually distribute the fruits of love of God, we ourselves should be convinced that this is something worth distributing. This has some deep value to it. It has some value which people need but they don't have. So that's Mahaprabhu's mood. Then we discussed how the CC structure, it is a continuation of Mahaprabhu's mood. So there are many biographies written after Mahaprabhu departed. It's the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. The succession is a miracle. Why a miracle? Because all three things that are required, persons, papers, processes, none of them were formally there. So how did the tradition continue? That was because of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It acted as a bridge between Bengal and Vrindavan. The bridge was in terms of the language. Here it was Bengali and it was Leela. And in Vrindavan it was the books, the literature that was in Sanskrit, and it was Tattva. The Chaitanya Charitamrita acted as a bridge where its biography format, but its theology is the core, is the center. I discuss how in a movie what is highlighted and what is downplayed. That shows the editor's priority. So the CC, the priority is the theology. That's why those are expanded over there. And the last part we discussed is Srila Prabhupada's mood. So Bhakti has these two aspects of the internal connection with Krishna, that is the devotion, and the external contribution to Krishna, that is the seva. So we can say for Prabhupada, the 1922 to 1965, that was his connection was tested and demonstrated to be utterly pure. That there was no motive for worldly fame. Still Prabhupada continued on. And then after that, 1966 to 67, there was historically unprecedented success. Krishna gave Prabhupada the world, and Prabhupada never got infatuated by it. So for all of us, we need to find the balance. If we focus in our bhakti, if we focus only on connection, what will happen is we will become irrelevant to the world. That nobody will understand or care what we are doing. If we focus only on contribution, Krishna will become irrelevant to us. Krishna just becomes an ornament for us to decorate what we are doing as a cover job, a surface job. We want to care for Krishna. That's why we have both our sadhana and our seva. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Do we have time for questions? Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned briefly, Prabhu, about the connection, contribution, and how you can't have one or just the other. One thing you said briefly was that if you only have the connection, you might be in transcendental ecstasy, but nobody knows about what you're doing. But isn't it true that if we are only trying to cultivate that connection without sharing Krishna consciousness, that we might even struggle to feel that ecstasy, we might struggle to experience any taste?
Yes, it is possible that's the reality for most of us, that we won't even be able to connect with Krishna. But there are, even within our tradition, a category of transcendentalists who are called as Bhajananandis. This delight in connecting with Krishna. Jagannath Das Babaji was like that. To some extent, Gaur Kishore Babaji was also like that. And they are respected. Now, Prabhupada was not like that, and Prabhupada didn't really recommend that. But just because Prabhupada didn't recommend that doesn't mean that that is inauthentic. There could be people who just immerse themselves in Krishna Katha and Krishna Leela. But that they can be great devotees, but they won't be devotees who are really following Prabhupada's mood. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, please, Prabhu.
Thank you for really, very nice class. Thank you for really nice class. I did enjoy it. One thing, if I may ask, some of the other religions, I talk to children, used to talk to children in school and so on. They were putting a lot of effort in teaching their basic language, their religious language to the children, not only in their mosque or temple or whatever, but in a wider community. Do you think ISKCON is now ready to actually fund Sanskrit courses, not only based in their own schools, but other schools in general, saying that we ISKCON will fund a teacher to teach Sanskrit in any school?
Mm-hmm. So there is a tension that is intrinsic, that is within the DNA of Krishna consciousness, you could say. To whatever extent we can use that terminology. See, there is the transcendental. See, when we use the word transcendental, that means it transcends everything in the material world. It goes beyond the material world. So now there is the transcendental, and then there is the cultural. So, is the transcendental to the culture also? Or is the cultural the way to the transcendental? So there are two distinct thoughts systems within our movement and within our tradition, you could say, broadly speaking. So broadly, it's like, is the cultural the only way to the transcendental? Or is it that, so from wherever we might come, it's like, we might come from various places, we go through the cultural to the transcendental. Or is it that the transcendental is way above, that the transcendental is universal, and yes, through a particular cultural pathway, a majority of people might go up. But people can go up through other cultural pathways also. So what I mean by this is, say, what does culture mean? Now culture can refer to many things. It can refer to food, it can refer to dress, it can refer to language, it can refer to nomenclature, it can refer to behavioral norms, it can refer to many various things. It can refer to customs. So if you consider, now music is also a big part of culture. Literature, poetry, all these things come in. So if we consider Srila Prabhupada, in many ways tried to give in the West a culturally specific form of Krishna consciousness. He wanted Western devotees to wear dhoti, kurta and saris. He taught Western devotees how to cook Indian cuisine. He taught he had our songs in Sanskrit and Bengali, which we learned to sing, even though it was difficult. So we could say, in one sense, Prabhupada introduced a very culturally specific form of Krishna consciousness. And that means Prabhupada, you could say, recommended this. That whatever culture we come from, we adopt the Bengali culture. Now, we can call it Gaudiya Vaishnava culture, whatever. But the Bengali culture from a historical particular one. And that is the way to the transcendental. At the same time, Prabhupada was remarkably non-committal about many aspects of the culture. Say, for example, Prabhupada significantly de-emphasized the language. Initially, Prabhupada tried to teach Sanskrit because one or two students in 1965-66 were interested in Sanskrit. But Prabhupada dropped that and he never emphasized Sanskrit after that. Some devotees learned Sanskrit and Prabhupada didn't discourage them, but Prabhupada didn't really glorify them and recommend them as his exemplary followers whom everybody else should emulate. So from the language perspective, Prabhupada didn't emphasize that so much. Now Prabhupada also, with respect to dress, he said, at times, whatever dress you wear, you ultimately, you have to chant Krishna's names. So we can find statements of Prabhupada from the other perspective also. That Prabhupada de-emphasizes the dress at times. Now, as far as the cuisine is concerned, while Prabhupada himself preferred and taught Bengali cuisine, Prabhupada was not against other forms of cuisine. Prabhupada never banned it. And now, more or less in our movement, we have all different forms of cuisine. And from a practical perspective, for devotees who are born in Europe or America, to adopt the Bengali cuisine, that just doesn't work for their body many times. Sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not work. And Prabhupada was quite pragmatic. Say, Prabhupada himself practiced Ayurveda. Not practiced. He took Ayurvedic medicine primarily. But when he was in London and he had a medical health emergency, he had allopathic procedure done for himself. So Prabhupada was not very fixed on this. So I don't think the way our movement is, we will at present, and the way Prabhupada conducted himself, the entire movement will ever arrive at one unified answer about this. So, is the specific culture the only way to the transcendental? Or is it that whatever be the culture, one can rise toward the transcendental? So, my understanding is that different devotees may feel inspired to serve Krishna in different ways. And no devotee who wants to serve Krishna in a particular way should be stopped from doing that service. But that does not mean, of course, it's a free for all and anybody can do anything. There is ultimately the result should be Krishna consciousness. So we could say that sometimes we use the word mood and mission as interchangeable, Prabhupada's mood and mission. Well, my understanding is these are two different things. Prabhupada had one mission, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But Prabhupada had many different moods at different times. When Prabhupada would go to farm community, he would emphasize nothing is as important as the farm community. When Prabhupada would go to Gurukul, he would say, training our children, these are Vaikuntha children, these are special souls sent by Krishna to us. Training them is the most important thing. When Prabhupada would be with book distributors, he would say, distributing books is the most important thing. So my point is that Prabhupada valued different services. And he valued them extremely and he encouraged them. And that's a part of the Bhakti tradition. That if you go to Vrindavan, the Vrindavan Dham Mahatmya will say Vrindavan is the greatest Dham. If you go to Mayapur, the Navadvip Dham Mahatmya will say Mayapur, Navadvip is the greatest. If you go to Puri, the Sthala Puranas of Puri will say the Puri is the greatest. So that's just the tradition in Bhakti, that when we are glorifying one, we focus on the glorification of that one thing. So, as long as in the long run Krishna consciousness is fostered, so Phalena Parichayate. So then, whichever specific cultural pathway is taken up, that's perfectly fine. So each temple and its leaders will have a particular vision of how to spread Krishna consciousness. And accordingly, they will prioritize certain things. So in some places, teaching Sanskrit will be prioritized. In some places, it may not be. Now that does not mean it's a bad thing. That does not mean it is a wrong thing. That does not mean those who are not prioritizing this is wrong. That does not mean those who are prioritizing it is wrong. The Krishna consciousness, like Prabhupada has given us a huge umbrella. And within that, different people can take up small umbrella. None of us can carry an umbrella as big as what Prabhupada has given. Prabhupada's umbrella is huge. So within that, this is like a giant umbrella, it's an international society. And within that, each of us can take one small umbrella. Somebody might say teach Sanskrit, somebody might teach harmonium, somebody might teach Bhagavad Gita, somebody might teach yoga to get people to bhakti. Somebody might teach mindfulness to get people to bhakti. Somebody might focus on teaching deity worship. Somebody might become a specialist in Gaudiya Vaishnava history. There's so many things. So different devotees can take up different umbrellas. See, fanaticism happens. Now, fanaticism in its physically violent versions when the people are terrorists and they blow up others. That's a different thing. But fanaticism, the mentality, the underlying thought process is actually scarily familiar. What it means is, the root of fanaticism is the idea that what works for me, that is the only thing that can work for anyone. So, now I may feel very close to Krishna and even Prabhupada by diving into the Sanskrit. And we say Prabhupada gave the Sanskrit word-to-word translation because he wanted to study it. So I may feel very close to Sanskrit, Prabhupada by studying Sanskrit. But somebody else may not. Somebody else may have no interest in reading Sanskrit. They may be devotees for 30, 40 years, still they can't pronounce Sanskrit words properly. I may say, what kind of devotion do you have? Are you even following Prabhupada? But that is fanaticism. Because they may be immersed in Prabhupada's mood and mission in a particular way. So our movement is broad enough that different devotees can have different umbrellas and they can carry those forward. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, one last question. Yes, Mataji.
Thank you for your class, Prabhu. You mentioned at the beginning about illusion and you gave the cinema example where the lights are turned off and everyone is there willingly, you know. Everyone wants to take part in this illusion. They might know that they're in this, but they don't really care. They don't want to get out of it. How can we, I guess in the Krishna conscious sense, how can we let them know how to get out of this illusion? Or how can we, even for ourselves, because sometimes we might get complacent and we might just feel, what is the use, or why now, what is the need? So how can we get out of this complacency? How can we remind ourselves that this illusion is not where we want to be?
Yes, that is a challenge for, you can say, outreach as well as in-reach in one sense. So Prabhupada gives a very profound explanation of what is realization or what is outreach with realization. So you could visualize it that as this way, that this is the message of scripture. Scripture, we can say tradition, which is teaching us the scripture. And then these are the audience's interests. So Prabhupada says realization means to speak the message of scripture in a way that is interesting for the audience. So we could speak many things from scripture, but we have to find out what are the interests of the audience. Now, interest, Prabhupada using is a general word. It could be needs, interests, concerns, expectations, whatever it is. Generally, that is in communication theory, there's 4 things I said. Be nice with others. Be nice means understand their needs, their interests, their concerns, and their expectations. So we need to be astute enough to know where people are at and what part of our tradition can address their interests. So now Prabhupada went to the West, and at that time people were into drugs. And Prabhupada adopted the term which one of his disciples used. You go high with drugs but you come down. But with Krishna consciousness you stay high forever. Prabhupada adopted that term. Now, one of my friends, he's from a Smarta background in India. The Smarta people, they think they are very smart. But they are often not. So he said, I read something which your Swamiji said, and I feel it's aparadh. I said, really, what happened? So he said, somebody came and, one of our prominent preachers, he loves to tell this pastime, that he said that when some hippie came to Prabhupada and he said, Swamiji, what is the bliss of Vaikuntha like? And Prabhupada said, it is like an ocean of LSD. So LSD is a drug which people used to take at those times to get high. Now this person, he is a pious person, he is a devoted also, the devoted Lakshmi Narayan. He said, LSD is a tamasic drug. And the bliss of Vaikuntha is completely pure and transcendental. Isn't it the aparadh to compare the bliss of Vaikuntha with LSD? And your own Swamiji has given the 10 offenses. And one of those offenses is to give a mundane interpretation of the holy name. Now, we can go on a holier than thou attitude. You think you know more than Prabhupada? By saying that Prabhupada has committed an aparadh, you have committed an aparadh to Prabhupada. Shut up. We are not going to address that person by that way. So I explained that what is the aparadh, first of all. The 7th offense. In 7th offense, to give mundane interpretation of the holy name, one of the offenses. So what it means essentially is that we reduce the holy name to the mundane. Now, can the holy name have some material effects? Of course it can have. So if some devotee does some research on neuroscience, and through neural imaging we find that when a devotee chants, the crosstalk in the brain. The crosstalk in the brain is where different neuronal connections, synapses happen simultaneously, and that's why people get distracted. See, when the brain functions a particular way, the synapses are happening linearly, then we can focus on one thing. But too many synapses happen at the same time, too many brain cells get connected simultaneously, and that's what they call as neural crosstalk. There's too much happening inside the brain, and that's why we get distracted. So, if some neural imaging shows that actually the crosstalk in the brain The random neural connections that are happening, they are decreasing. Now, and this is the effect of the holy name. Now, is that a mundane interpretation? Not necessarily. If we say that is all there is to it, oh, the holy name is powerful because it silences the crosstalk. That's fine. But that's the purpose of chanting of the holy names, to silence the neural crosstalk in your brain. No, that is not the purpose. The purpose is something much higher. So, to explain the spiritual in terms that are understandable to people at a material level, that is not giving a mundane interpretation. It is reducing the spiritual to only the material. That is the problem. So, here, when Prabhupada is saying it's like an ocean of LSD, what is he doing? He's actually doing outreach with realization. For a person who is into drugs, for a person whose conception of the highest happiness of life is taking drugs and going high, tell them, oh, the spiritual world is like an ocean of LSD. Yeah, I want to go there. Isn't it? So the desire gets triggered. So Prabhupada was expert in that sense. So we have to consider what are people's needs, interests, concerns, expectations right now, and how can we address them today. And that thing we can apply to ourselves also. Okay. We cannot just say, I want to be a pure devotee and what matters to me presently doesn't matter at all. No, if my health is good, is not so good, if say I'm in a relationally unstable place, if I'm in a financially insecure place, so the concerns that matter to me. And then how can I connect my present concerns with my ultimate concerns? It is not that the present concerns are to be given up, but it's also not that for the sake of the present concerns, I give up my ultimate concerns. So it's like we have concerns. We can have immediate concerns, our present concerns, and we have ultimate concerns. So the Ishopanishad says Vidyamcha Vidyamcha. Actually, Krishna consciousness is meant to address both the immediate and the ultimate concern. Now, addressing immediate concerns doesn't mean that if we don't have a job, Krishna will come in our dream and tell us, okay, I give this job to you. No, not like that. But Krishna consciousness can calm our mind, can clarify our intelligence and say, okay, this is the path I should go ahead. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. So Krishna can do that to us. So most people are going to be concerned about their immediate concerns right now. So then we have to see which of those immediate concerns can we link with their ultimate concerns. So for example, consider yoga, or consider mindfulness, or consider say musical meditation, kirtan. Now people may come here just because these things make them feel good. But and that's their needing. People are stressed out. One of the characteristics of Kali Yuga is that upadrutaha, the minds are very disturbed of people. So if people want something which helps them feel calm, feel good, now if we can help them get a good feeling through Krishna consciousness, then we are addressing their immediate need, but we are also giving them a pathway toward the ultimate. So that has to be the resourcefulness of the tradition's contemporary teachers, to find out what are people's present concerns and how we can address them. So if we focus only on the immediate, we will become disconnected. Again, going back to the earlier thing, we will become disconnected from Krishna. But if we focus only on the ultimate, we will become disconnected from the world. So we need to be able to address the immediate and the ultimate. So when Prabhupada came back to India, between 1960s and between say 1955 and 1960 and 1970, it was not that India changed dramatically. Indians were not really interested in Krishna consciousness in 1960, and Indians were similarly not interested in Krishna consciousness in 1970. Actually, Indians became interested in Krishna consciousness around 1990 onwards. That's when our movement really took off in a serious way in India. So, but when Prabhupada came back in 1970 to India, the way he presented Krishna consciousness actually synced with the cultural nationalistic pride of Indians. Oh, this Swami went to America and made Americans and British people follow our culture. So many of the people who became life members and who appreciated and supported Prabhupada, they didn't support Prabhupada because they loved Gaudiya Vaishnavism specifically. They loved Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They loved the fact that this Swamiji has gone to the West. We Indians have been culturally dominated by the West for so long. Now this Swamiji has actually conquered the West with our culture. And this is a great Swami, you want to support him. So what Prabhupada did was he addressed that particular concern of the Indians, and Indians took it up. Now was that what Prabhupada wanted? Not necessarily, that was not what Prabhupada ultimately wanted. But yena kena prakarena, somehow or the other you get people to Krishna. Now, most of the people who became life members, most of them never became devotees. Very, very few of them, out of less than, you could say, less than maybe 0.1% actually became devotees. But at that time they did a lot of service. And the temples were built, the foundation was set. And eventually in the 1990s, in the 1985, 1986, from that time onward basically, that is the time when Krishna consciousness started spreading in India. So things have their own time in which they manifest. So what are the immediate concerns of people right now? And how can we connect them with the ultimate? That is the expertise of a teacher. Okay. Thank you very much. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki.